Okay, so 2-1 Celtics, and the big question I had going into this one was how could the Celtics offense be better than it was in the last one because the Warriors defense really shut them down. And you know what, man? Sometimes the solution is you just got to start cooking dudes on ball. I mean, we had times where Jalen just took Draymond off the dribble and he just matched the physicality that Draymond was going in with in game two. There were some plays where, Tatum would get the switch onto Steph, whether that's him screening from Marcus or him getting a screen from wherever Steph is. And similar to the other games, the Warriors were giving him that switch, although they were double teaming a bit more in the second half as the game went along. And I think that's something they could lean into more for the rest of the series. But anyway, you get the switch, and sometimes it's just going really fast, man. Because what would happen in game two was the Warriors, they would just dig in to the paint, but still not leave their guy too open on the perimeter. And combine that with, at times, some hesitancy from Tatum and Jalen to sort of just attack. And what you saw was the Celtics offense in the mud. In this game, it was, I'm just going to go. Whether that is Jalen taking Gary Payton the second off the dribble, he made a three over him. I mean, hell, you had times where Marcus Smart was just driving at Steph, or he took Steph into the post at one of those times. I mean, again, sometimes the answer is not that complex. I mean, hell, in the fourth quarter, Tatum had Otto Porter. I don't even think it was much of a switch. He just sort of drove, but it was kind of like a put my shoulder into you, but not enough to commit an offensive foul, just to get you off balance enough. There's the help. Marcus Smart's open in the corner, makes a three. That's just some basic basketball. Combine that with them attacking the offensive glass really hard in this game. Also times where Time Lord was mixed up with Draymond, and that's something to talk about, the lineups for the Celtics. And actually, I'll just mention it now. So they started the game with Horford and Time Lord, went away from it like 3 or 4 minutes in. I think they closed the last few minutes until the Warriors took their guys out with also Horford and Time Lord. And I think they started the second half with it as well for a couple minutes. But a lot of the time, it was one of Horford, one of Time Lord, and I think that did improve the spacing a bit. That's the other thing, right? For game two, right? It was those two being out there. I mean, they weren't out there all the time in game two together, but it was a little bit more in this game, unless I'm crazy, combined with some hesitancy from the ball handlers of the Celtics after they would get a switch on the Warriors. And yeah, man, I think for the Warriors' sake, again, I did mention that they started to double team a little bit more in the second half. That could be the solution to try to get them off balance. Not saying that you're going to do it every single time, but, if your guys are just essentially getting cooked off the dribble, which is basically what happened for a good chunk of this game from them, you may have to lean into that a little bit more. The other thing, of course, is how can you keep your bigger wing defenders, mainly Clay and Wiggins, Otto Porter some, on Tatum, Jalen, and all them. I mean, of course, Draymond's having time on Jalen. I mean, here's the thing, man. I do think Tatum's screening really does throw teams off on how to not get the switch the Celtics want. I mean, he was able to do that to Steph in the fourth quarter a couple times. Like, yeah, against Dallas, it was, well, we're going to hedge, and then Steph's going to get back to Finney Smith or Reggie Bullock or whatever. It's a little different when Tatum is the one screening, so I don't have the solution for you. Speaking of Time Lord, I thought that the times where he was not out there with Horford, I think he was guarding Draymond, at least on a few possessions, which did allow him to play his help defense. He had, I think, 3 or 4 blocks in the game. And speaking of Time Lord, he got the alley-oop from Horford off of the Tatum double team after Horford got it in the middle of the floor and then just lobbed it up to him. So that is what can happen when you start throwing double teams at guys. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. As for the other side of the ball, the Warriors should feel good about Clay. I do remember that one time where Time Lord was playing a little off of Looney, and then it went into the Clay-Looney handoff, which the Warriors are programmed to do that when you're ignoring Looney. I think Time Lord did an okay job of eventually getting up there. And, this is the conversation with the Celtics defense against the Steph and Clay right now. It's how high up on the screen should you be and all that stuff. And, yeah, I think there's times where Horford or Time Lord are not getting up high enough on it. I also think there's times where they're doing a pretty okay job, and it's like, bro, that's Steph Curry. He's just going to make a few that you defend well. Of course, you also don't want to foul him like Horford did on that one. There's no perfect solution here, man. The Warriors have become amazing at playing off of Steph Curry traps. If you want to just switch the big guy and then dare Steph to do something from there, you can try it. It does take away one of your bigs away from the basket, which can lead to some offensive rebounds for the Warriors. There's also the chance that Steph just cooks if he's got the switch on him. Like, it's not as easy as just play up on him and magic things happen. Like, the Warriors are here for a reason. With all that being said, yes, there are still a couple times where it's like, ooh, I really wish you were like 2 feet higher up on that one as he came around the screen. I mean, Derek White, Tatum, Smart, whoever it is fighting around that action, I think they're doing a pretty good job of putting a hand in Steph's face. It's just this is Steph Curry we're talking about. Should also be said, there are times where that coverage leads to him not taking the shot, but dribbling kind of out of the play because the window isn't really there. I mean, it's not like it doesn't work every single time. One little thing I noticed on some of the Tatum down screens, it seemed like the Warriors didn't want to switch that. It was more so Wiggins trying to fight around it, which did lead to one of Tatum's baskets in the fourth quarter. It's not a huge deal, but it's something. And actually, I just saw on Twitter that it also led to a three-pointer that he had in the third quarter. So yeah, man, I felt like in Game 2, the Warriors really found a way to get the Celtics to sort of dribble themselves into traffic, and then they're looking around and, oh crap, there's 4 seconds on the clock, what do we do? This game, the Celtics attacked before the Warriors could really form those sort of what appears like a driving lane but isn't really a driving lane. And so now the question for the Warriors is, how do you slow down all of that penetration and also don't get killed on the boards? And by the way, Kevon Looney played 17 minutes in this game, which is the least amount he's played in this series. I don't know if that's a sign of things to come from Steve Kerr. He just felt it in the moment. We'll see. But Looney has mattered a lot in these playoffs for him.